All right, so let's look at reading and analyzing a box and whisker plot. So the first thing, we can clearly determine the 5-number summary from the box and whisker plot. So the minimum value there we see is 10. We can see that Q1 value, the lower quartile, is 20. We can see that Q2, the median, is that vertical segment inside the box. Looks like that's about 51. Then we can look at the upper quartile. Q3 is 70. And then we can see the max value, which is 90. So now we talk about quartiles, right? Well, what's a quarter? What percent is a quarter? That's right, 25%. So the little intervals between each quartile is 25%. So from the min to the lower quartile, Q1 to the min, that means 25% of the data is represented in that little small cluster right there. That's 25%. Okay. The next 25% of the data goes from the lower quartile to the median. So that's a little bit bigger spread of data, right? But that data represents 25% of all the data, the numerical data in the data set, which makes sense. The median is in the middle, so everything left of the median is going to be half your data, right? Everything right of the median is going to be the other half of the data, which brings up the next part, right? So from the median, the Q2 to Q3, that's another 25% of the data. And then finally, from the Q3, the upper quartile, to the max value, that's your last 25% of the data that's represented. Again, we cannot determine how many numbers are actually in this data set. This could represent 100 numbers, it could be 20 numbers, it could be 1,000,000 numbers. We don't know unless they told us this represented how many pieces of data. Now, the only numbers that we know that are for sure in the data set are the minimum and the maximum value, right? The min, we know that there's at least 110 in the data set, and we know that there's at least 190 in the data set. We do not know the other values. So the median, it might have been an average of two numbers, right? Could have been an average of two numbers. So maybe 51 is actually not in the data set. Same thing with your Q1 and your Q3, because those are the medians of the first half and the second half. And it could have been potentially we found the average of two numbers to get those numbers. And those numbers are not even in the data set. So the only numbers you're going to know for sure are the minimum and the maximum that's in the data set. All right, finally, I want to talk about something called the interquartile range. So this is very similar to finding the range. We were finding the range the other day, and all that is the range of this data set is the max value subtracted from the min value, right? So our range in this problem would have been 90 minus 10, which is 80. Okay, the interquartile range, which you're going to hear me say IQR for short, is basically the range of the middle 50% of the data. The middle 50%. So the middle 50% of the data is from Q3 to Q1. So to find the IQR, all we do is go Q3 value minus Q1. So in our example here, we go 70 minus 20. So our IQR is 50. So think of that as the spread of the data is 50 values is the spread of the middle 50% of the data in this example, versus the full range of the data is a spread of 80 units.